Hey, fantasy football lovers. You're listening to the All Out Blitz Fantasy Football Podcast. We discuss everything fantasy football. Now, with over 25 years' experience, here are your hosts, Joe and Andrew.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and whatever else you might celebrate.
Whatever it's the holiday you celebrate, hopefully it was a happy one.
Yeah, hopefully you won your fantasy league and right now are rolling around your bed in money or waiting to collect some money.
That's usually the tough part of the season, is trying to collect the money from all the schleps that got to pay up.
Well, if you're in a good league, you would collect the money prior to the season starting.
Yeah, I think any league that we've ever been in, though, you're always got the stragglers that pay up sometime in February.
I had one guy last year send me a check in May. And he hasn't paid this year yet either, so we'll see.
He's confused. He thinks it's for this year.
Hopefully everybody is still following fantasy football. And today we thought we'd talk about keepers, who might be good to keep in this from the past draft leading up into the current draft if you're in a keeper league.
Yeah, I mean, you're a lot of leagues are keeper leagues, and everybody's leagues are different, and everybody's going to have different rules on if they keep players, what the rules are determined. If you do a keep a player, do you take away the round that player was chosen in previous years, or do you get to just keep anybody? So, I mean, it's all kind of based on whatever your league rules are, but yeah, we'll talk about who should be top sleeper keepers, I guess you could call them. People that really weren't drafted in earlier rounds last year. They were drafted a little bit later, and they're definitely worthy of hanging on to for next season.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, everybody, like Andrew mentioned, everybody's league rules are different with keepers. But yeah, we felt that this was important to mention some of the top players you're going to want to hang on to if you are in a keeper league, because they performed above and beyond what we might have thought they might have performed in. Because I know, for example, Odell Beckham, I got him in one of my leagues in the 18th round. I held on to him through his injury, and he basically won one of the leagues for me.
Yeah, and I mean, that could be the first one we talk about is Odell Beckham. I mean, the guy, he's arguably, I mean, how do you not consider him arguably the top receiver taken off the board next year?
Well, that's what I was going to mention. Let's look at Odell Beckham. Let's get right into this and talk about Beckham first. He missed 4 games, was it, or 5 games because of that injury?
5, yeah, 4 or 5 games.
So he had 79 catches. There's still one more week to play, right. Week 17. But as of now, he has 79 catches for a little over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. So
wow,
next season,
I mean, he's only played then 11 games, right? If he's missed 5 games, he's still got one more game. So that's 11, 12 games that he's played in.
And look at what he's putting up for numbers. So let's look at next year's draft. If you're not in a keeper league and he's ready to go off the board, yeah, who is going ahead of him on wide receivers? Calvin Johnson?
No.
Antonio Brown?
Maybe. That's the one that I was going to say. It's going to be him or Antonio Brown.
What about Jordy Nelson?
Yeah, he's always fighting for balls with Randall Cobb, and I don't know. I mean, Odell Beckham, he's not fighting for. He is the go-to guy.
But next year, Victor Cruz comes back.
True. So yeah, good point. So he's going to be maybe taking some catches away. I don't know. I mean, it's you can make an argument for either 3 of those receivers. Beckham, Nelson, or Antonio Brown. But,
let's call him a top 3 off the board next year if you don't keep him.
And what I'm saying is that arguably he could. Would you frown upon somebody taking him as the number 1 receiver off the board next year?
Absolutely not.
Right, you can't. So, yeah. Yeah, he's
That's a good argument
proven.
because here we are talking about Beckham, Brown, and Nelson, and Calvin Johnson's not even mentioned in the mix.
And there's just too much of an injury factor with Calvin. Over the years, I mean, and I know you can't predict injuries, but over the years, he's always dinged up. Every year, it's something. And granted, Odell Beckham started the year on the injury, so I guess, but once he started, coming back.
Yeah, he's been
playing,
durable.
For the time he was playing. So, he's always got that injury factor, Megatron. So that's why I'm kind of, shying away a little bit.
Yeah, we both agree. Odell Beckham is definitely a top 3 off the board next year. But if you have him,
I'm guessing you're gonna be keeping him next year.
Oh, I am. I do have him in the league, and I
Right.
got him in the 18th round out of 18. 18th out of 18 rounds. I took him. I knew he was injured. I held on to him. Put him on injured reserve. Yeah, he's. I'm in a keeper league with him, and I won't get my 18th round pick next year.
Right. And where was he drafted? Average draft position?
His average draft position was 175. So what's that? 17th round.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So very good value.
Undrafted, depending on your league, he was either undrafted or he was taken extremely late. So he's got to be the number 1 keeper. Everybody.
Yeah, absolutely the number 1 out of this list I have in front of me, the number 1 keeper, no doubt about it. So
Right.
We'll move on. We'll stick with wide receivers here. The number 2 on my list is DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face
where
it.
was
He was drafted 95th, the 10th
So
team.
if you're going to give up a 9th round for DeAndre Hopkins, yeah, I would do that. Absolutely. Why not give up a 9th rounder for DeAndre Hopkins? He is the offense. He is the go-to receiver in that offense. Andre Johnson is kind of a thing of the past.
Well, Andre Johnson is more of a possession guy, but he's getting up there in age. My only worries with Hopkins, I mean, let me rattle off his stats real quick here. 74 receptions for a little over 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
My only worry, though, with Hopkins is who is going to quarterback next year.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. I mean, who's going to be throwing him the ball? And granted, how many quarterbacks has he gone through this year? And he's still putting up over 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that's not bad. If they can get the quarterback situation down there figured out and lock someone in that's fairly, it's a good quarterback, then is Fitzpatrick going to be there next year again? Is it going to be Ryan Mallett when he's healthy? I mean, so yeah, it's just who's going to be throwing him the ball.
Next up on the list is rookie Mike Evans. He was drafted.
Yeah, he's been a stud. I mean.
Yeah, he was drafted 93rd overall, so again, 9th round. His stats are 63 catches, 997 yards, 11 touchdowns.
I was going to say, his touchdowns is what jumps out at me, because the guy catches, he's good for a touchdown a game, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know he's had some weeks where, obviously, he doesn't have a touchdown a game, because they're 15 weeks into the season, he's only got 11, but yeah, he's the go-to guy there. Vincent Jackson, is on the opposite side of the field, and they feed him the ball quite often there, Josh McCown. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's a good receiving tandem, Jackson and Evans as well. The quarterback situation worries me a little bit there with McNown and Glennon. Obviously McNown took over and did an okay job. We'll see how that goes next year. But yeah, I would definitely spend a 9th round pick on Evans. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. If you don't keep him, he's going to be scooped up in the, definitely no later than the 4th round. So, that's a steal if you can keep him in the 9th.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, next on the list is for Carolina, Kelvin Benjamin. He was drafted, again, 9th round, 91st overall. And his stats are 72 catches, 999 yards, and 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, which is, great stats for a rookie. They've had some quarterback issues there in Carolina with Cam Newton being injured for most of the season and not playing some games and not really being himself just overall from the beginning of the season. He really wasn't the Cam Newton we've seen in years past. And you blame that on injuries or what you want to blame it on. So you'd hope that that Benjamin's numbers would even exceed what he did this year, next year, especially if Cam can kind of get back on track and that offense can get back on track.
And what I think has to happen with Carolina in the offseason is they need to get someone opposite of Benjamin. You know, if they can get a good receiver through free agency in the offseason to complement Benjamin, that's going to be a good offense next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see what they do next year. Like I said, I'm looking forward to maybe seeing Cam Newton get back to his old ways.
Okay, and then the last number 5, again, drafted in the 9th round, 90th overall, is Buffalo's Sammy Watkins. His numbers were 62 catches for 925 and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, and those are very respectable numbers for a rookie wide receiver. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the season, you had him as your, what did we do at the beginning of the season? That first?
Yeah, I think we did
was it a boom or bust of the year, or was it a?
I think we kind of did something like kind of like who we thought was going to exceed expectations type of thing.
Right.
And I know I did have Watkins as one of my guys who I thought was going to exceed expectations.
He's not the number one receiver going to be taken off the board next year by any means, but heck, the guy he caught his share of passes in an offense that, let's face it, they're not the most high-powered offense in the league, and they got Kyle Orton back there, or Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters back there tossing the ball around to him. So yeah, I think for what he has to work with, I think he did very well.
Okay, let's roll over to the running backs. Let me see. I'm gonna look at my list here and go with arguably the number 1 running back who should be kept. You may disagree with me, but I'm gonna go with Mark Ingram as the number 1 running back on my list that should be kept. He had 907 yards, 8 total touchdowns, 27 grabs for 841 yards. So a total of a little over 1,600 yards.
He's definitely a keeper. What round was he taken?
Okay, so he was drafted 94th overall, so 9th round. He's worth a 9th round pick.
Absolutely. Jesus. Yeah, he's definitely worth a 9th rounder.
The offense did struggle a little bit. I'll let you say what you were going to say because I think I know what you're going to say. What scares you?
Yeah, and the only thing that scares me is, he got a lot of his carries and the bulk of his work with those injuries to Pierre Thomas and the other running backs. And if they if they feed him the ball and make him the primary back in that offense, well, hell, he could be a first, second round pick next year. You know what I mean? In fantasy, it's just whether or not the coach down there does that. It seems like as soon as Pierre Thomas gets healthy, they like to feed Pierre Thomas and give him his share of the carries. So it takes away from the value of Ingram.
Drew Brees worries me a little bit. I think he might be, he's obviously been in the league for a long time. He's in his mid-30s. We saw this year he struggled at times. That offense struggled at times. So who's next up?
Was it Drew Brees or was it the offense?
Well, if you look at the offense, though, look at the receivers. Jimmy Graham is young. I can't think of. I'm not prepared. I can't think of Marquise Colston. Well, Colston's a little older, but Stills is young, and then the other one that got injured there, not Stills, but the other receiver, the young receiver that got injured, hurt his hand and went on the IR. Nevertheless.
Oh yeah. What the hell is his name?
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks.
So they have young receivers. They have, with the exception of Pierre Thomas, they have young running backs. Ingram is young, and Kyrie Robinson is young. It's Drew Brees that makes me a little nervous with that offense. Who?
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's coming in to expel Brees anytime soon. Next year he's going to be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. So. That's not happening next year.
Yep.
So, when you're talking about Ingram, he's going to have the same quarterback, he's going to have the same offense, and he's going to still have Pierre Thomas in the mix. So, again, that's just, he's definitely worth a 9th round pick just for the upside alone and what he can do if they do give him the rock every game. But
okay, the number 2 running back keeper would be Justin Forsett. He was drafted 337th, which basically is undrafted.
Yeah, so 30th round. So we all have 30th rounds.
Yeah, yeah, basically undrafted.
Right.
His yardage, a little over 1,100, almost actually 1,150 rushing yards, 8 total touchdowns, 42 grabs for 246. So,
and mind you, he did this without being the key back for the beginning of the season. Remember, it was always initially it was Bernard Pierce that was getting the bulk of the carries, and so a few weeks into it is when he started kind of getting the bulk of the work. So he did that, in not a full, you can call it, a shortened season basically. So yeah, I mean he's with that whole Ray Rice scenario and debacle going on down there, and for him to be able to come out and do what he's been able to do.
Okay, so next on the list for running backs would be Miami Dolphins' Lamar Miller, drafted 82nd overall. He had 921 rushing yards, 38 grabs for 275 yards, and 8 total touchdowns.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at a shortened season for Miller because initially it was no Sean Marino toting the rock back.
Yeah, would he get injured? Week 4, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, week 4.
So he was sharing time with Moreno, and yeah, that was a little scary because this coming up season, 2015, Moreno will be back, so we'll be back to a share running back by committee situation.
Right. Running back by committee is no Sean going to be the man. It's just a matter of time, though, before he gets injured. So.
But, to keep him, for an 8th round, to lose an 8th round pick to take a chance, it's worth it.
No, definitely, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next up on the list would be a surprise for me, Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, that's absolutely a surprise.
We all thought it was going to be
the Gio show.
Gio Bernard. Hill was drafted in the 8th round. He had a total of 9 touchdowns. Again, this is week 16 we're talking here. There's still one more week to go, so he could build on these stats that I'm mentioning. But 9 touchdowns, 877 yards, 25 catches for another 205 yards.
Yeah, which is, that's a great stat line for a guy that's got, a shortened season with Gio starting the year off as the feature back. And, yeah, you got to love him going forward. They finally they were doing that running back by committee for a few weeks until I think finally someone put their foot down.
Well, Bernard got injured.
Who?
Bernard got injured.
Oh no, right. They were doing that for a while, and then Bernard got injured, so it was the Hill show. And then when Bernard came back, they were kind of doing that share carry time.
But then somebody did say, we're going with Hill.
Well, right. I think after a while,
he's the better runner.
Kind of said, I think Hill's the guy here, and it's been the Hill show ever since. So, and he's proven to be, an every down feature back. Gio's just he's that smaller, fragile back that I don't think can stay healthy for a full season anyway.
Exactly. Okay, and last up on our list is for St. Louis, Trey Mason. So Mason was basically undrafted, drafted 172nd overall, which is 17th round. His yardage wasn't, he kind of started to come on at the end. He only had 737 yards, 13 grabs for 119, and only 5 touchdowns. But again, in the beginning, the first 7 weeks, St. Louis struggled. Bradford got injured. They were kind of using a 3-headed monster back there between Mason and Cunningham and Stacy.
Zach Stacy. Yeah.
So he didn't have but once they started using him exclusively, he kind of started to come on. I know the past couple of weeks he struggled a little bit.
Yeah, and he's in. He's in the division with.
San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona. All 3 of them have fantastic run defenses.
Great run defense.
Yeah.
So you're going to expect his totals not to be like some of the other running backs' totals because he's got to face those 3 teams. He's got 6 times during the course of the year that he's got to go against really good run defense.
But if your league allows you to keep him where he was drafted and you took him in the 17th round or 18th round, definitely it's worth holding on to him to lose a 17th or 18th rounder. Absolutely.
Now, how many keepers does your league allow?
So we're only allowed to keep 2, and they can't be the same position. So I'm keeping Beckham, obviously. So I can't keep another wide receiver.
Right.
And also, we can't keep players that were drafted in the first or second round as well.
Right.
So
Okay.
I got Beckham in the 18th round. I'll hold on to him. I had a pretty good team in that league, so I'll look at my running backs and see who I can keep at the running back position.
Now, can you keep a tight end, or is that?
Yeah, you can keep a tight end. You can keep a quarterback, but in a 10 or 12 team league, do you really want to keep a quarterback?
That's why we didn't really talk about the quarterbacks today, right?
I mean, the quarterbacks. It's tough to make an argument to keep a quarterback, quite honestly, because you're in let's say I'm in a 12-team league, and that 12 quarterbacks. There's 32 teams in the league, so if 12 go off the board, there's still 20 others to pick from, 20 starters to pick from. So it's kind of tough to make an argument to keep a quarterback. I know last year I think I kept Kaepernick because he kind of excelled at the end.
Yeah, he was drafted probably so late.
So I ended up just keeping him because my team wasn't that good anyways. So I just ended up keeping him because I wanted to keep somebody, and out of my team, out of the players I was allowed to keep, he was the best one anyways. So I just held on to him. But for the most part, you usually don't keep quarterbacks. I'm not saying to people that are listening to us now not to keep a quarterback. I mean, if you feel strong about that, obviously, keep a quarterback. But personally, I wouldn't keep a quarterback.
Well, like I said, I mean, if for some ungodly reason you had Aaron Rodgers and he wasn't, you got to take him in your draft last year, which isn't going to happen. But if you took him in the 7th round, then okay, maybe you want to keep Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah,
of
course.
Chances are that's not the case. That's not the case. So.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to mention that if you are listening to this and you need to get your fantasy fix, log on to our website, which is alloutblitzfootball.com, and we have a playoff challenge up there that you can join. It's $25 to join. You can send the money via PayPal. The rules are up on the website. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, the playoff challenge.
Yeah, it's been a few years, and every year it grows. So
it gets you right from the start of the NFL playoffs through the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's something to join. If like Joe said, if you're out of your playoffs and you're kind of itching, you got that itch still, and you want to keep on playing, it gives you something to look forward to while you're watching the NFL playoffs. Yeah, it makes watching the NFL playoffs a lot more exciting. That's for sure. All right, so we'll be back with our award show next time, and that's going to wrap it up for today. All right, everybody, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a happy New Year. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.